Well, hi, welcome to Notefellow TV. I'm so glad you guys tuned in today. Today, I'm excited we have a great guest. His name's Jeremy Scott. And Jeremy is a guy that I've known for a couple of years. He's in the DFW Metroplex area where I'm at, and he's a real estate agent. So we're going to bring him in and find out exactly who he is and what he does and get to know him a little better.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey, Jeremy, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Yeah.
Good. So give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do and maybe how long you've been in business.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. When Wayne reached out, I was like, absolutely. I watch his shows. I see him, interview some big time people. So I was like, I'd love to get on there. I appreciate you reaching out. Wayne and I met through Note School, which is awesome. Became friends, and like-minded individuals stick together. So we like to have a good time, and we love to talk about real estate. So, well, more than that, I mean, we get into real deep life stuff in our conversations, but I think that that's good when you can meet somebody and have someone to do that with.
I agree.
But yeah, so I've been in real estate since 2014. Started as a realtor, fresh out of the car business, and just learned how to sell there, and wanted to maybe get a little bigger chunks of commission, actually. So started doing that, and then always trying to perfect your craft, right? And the 10,000 hour rule, all that stuff. It's just more, I always say, peeling the onion back, the layer of the real estate deal. So that's really how Note School came in, and then, meeting Wayne and whatnot. But we are regular full residential brokerage. There's 15 of us on the retail side. And then acquisitions for investments, there's 2 acquisitions managers, and we do have a dispositions manager. So things are really coming along and steamrolling, and I know we'll get into it, but it's fun. The deal within the deal within the deal is what you can do with notes.
Right. Yeah, and that's really the summary of it all. So how long have you been doing real estate? How long had you been doing real estate before you discovered notes?
Ooh, good question. So 2014 is when I started. Did the brokerage thing as soon as I can after the 4 years and hitting your marks. I had flipped a house prior to that, but I had never done anything note wise until about 2019, I believe, and went to the class and whatnot. And I'm like, this is genius. I can see how I can implement that right away, and would love to get after it.
Right.
So about going on the 4th year, I guess, of the note knowledge. But you know how it goes. You have to totally immerse yourself, and then one day it just kind of clicks.
Yeah, it does. It does. And so was there something about it? Like, were you looking for something in your real estate? Were you doing real estate and then thinking, I'm missing an aspect of this? Or did you just happen to see, was there some sort of an ad or an email that you had gotten to entice you to go to a note event or to find out more about notes? How did that transition happen?
Yeah, man. So I ran in some circles with some of these guys who go to the big real estate investing groups. And so, the Note Eddie Speed and Note School would come around and speak. So that was one thing I had heard him talk. But I'll tell you, to be honest, the thing that got me was that, Eddie's a master marketer, right? So that marketing thing of, if you're doing 20 appointments and you get 2 deals and average that, right? 1 out of 10 appointments. So he did 20. He goes, if you could get 1 or 2 extra deals in this manner, what would that do for you? And I was like, that's kind of a good point. So did that, and really dove into buying on terms, and just getting sellers to carry and whatnot. Adding that extra layer has been, awesome to grow, portfolio. I don't like rentals, but I have them because sometimes it just makes sense. And then the end game of all of those, in my opinion, is switching them to a note eventually, even if you have to just carry terms, deal with the tenant, and then get the tenant out, fix it up, and then sell a note on it. So it just depends. But that's what really stuck out to me. It's like, if you could get that extra deal or 2 a month, what would that do for your business?
Right. That's fantastic. So what type of real estate investments are you currently involved in? Are you doing a little bit of everything, fix and flips, wholesale? How do you run your day-to-day business in regards of
Yeah.
acquisition?
Absolutely. So we go over our leads, and I'm a little bit maniacal about it. We go over them every day, every morning, and our hot leads. I just looked. We have 72 hot leads, and we have over 3,000 tasks set in our CRM. We follow up like crazy, and so when they come in, we do it that way. So actually, what we do is go in with a menu, and I've developed this thing. There's like, hey, here's the three options that we can do. We're sales consultants. How can we help you? This is the options. Pick which one a la carte works for you, and we're going to recommend, what makes the most sense. And we tell people straight up, this is your option that makes you the most money in your pocket. But here's the negative things that come with it. Is that worth it to you? And a lot of times people will say no, because they hate realtors. Which is true. I mean, so do I. No, I'm just kidding. But they can be pests. So we try to not be that, and our culture is quite a bit different. But to answer your question, we do a lot of assignments, wholesaling. We'll cherry pick the good ones and flip them. So that produces the cash flow and revenue and whatnot. But then we'll create, we've recently started creating notes on those and really kind of using hard money interim to help create the long-term seller finance and then get a wrap situation going. That's what we're really diving into over the last 6 months. But notes, assignments, and flips are the primary. I don't do the Burr method. I respect people who do that, but rentals is just not where my heart is.
Well, and in some of the circles that I've been having discussions, Jeremy, the Burr method seems to kind of be dying out because the interest rates increasing are making that whole refinance part of the Burr not really profitable like it was before. You can't really refinance your way out of it.
You're right.
At a low enough interest rate to make it worth doing.
Right. And then think about that. If you lock up, a balloon on that right now, you got to get 7.5. You get a 5 or 10 year, if you're lucky, balloon.
Mm-hmm.
What are rates going to look like if they keep giving Ukraine money?
Right.
They're going to go up.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. So it's not really the Burr, like you said. You respect people that do it, but I suspect that the people that was a big part of their business model, that's probably either slowing down or coming to almost a stop, I would suspect.
You nailed it. Yeah.
And then you said because the next thing I was going to ask you is, talking about just different types of note deals, either that you invest in or create. So I know you said you like to do wraps. Mm-hmm. Wraps are always solid, especially where you've got the deal and it's an applicable deal. You got an underlying and you need to take it down and wrap it. That's great. But what else do you do? Do you create notes? Do you do any brokering? Or do you buy any existing notes?
Yeah. So I have brokered a few, and it was good. I just realized you can't get rich doing that. It's nice. You can put a little money in the bank. And I have not personally purchased a note that's been set up. I've only set them up myself. And it's not that there's anything bad with that. It's just going back to the beginning, a deal within a deal within a deal. So if you get the lead, we go over our leads and we get the hot lead, right? And then they're willing to carry it. This is my favorite scenario. They're willing to carry it. So you have that set up, buy it on terms. I got one at 0% and I got them up to 4%. We got another guy who's willing to carry 2 more properties at 3.5%. But what I'm getting at is when you get that done, you can lock in your profit long term, right? Mm-hmm. But if you do that wrap scenario, then you get the down payment, you arbitrage the payments, and then in the future get the payout. Just like Joe says, right? You get money today, money tomorrow, and money in the future.
Right.
To me, that is the favorite scenario. And we're trying to get really creative and do some things with banks. It's hard to find a bank willing to play ball because, in my opinion, it's more knowledge. It's like a lack of knowledge that these banks are willing, and I get a risk threshold and whatnot.
Right.
Lines of credit and all that on the notes is something that we're kind of going next level. But my favorite deal is the wrap situation. You buy it on terms, wrap situation, and then now we're trying to get lines of credit out on that note, which is going to be the next part of the onion. pulling the deal.
Right. Investment opportunities, right? For private money.
Mhm. And my thoughts were just, it's like I like buying. I love the idea of buying something and getting a deal and having the good yield. But in my opinion, with the resources we have, it just makes more sense to use my capital to set up a note in this manner rather than purchase one.
Hmm. Right. And for me, and I understand that because you're in a situation where when you found notes, you already had the machinery in place of being a real estate investor, as in you had marketing in place, you're bringing in leads, you're converting those leads into, okay, I'm going to make this a rental, I'm going to fix and flip. And so the notes were just kind of bolting on to what you were already doing.
Correct.
And
Absolutely.
in my case, being a retired engineer, I was in a situation where I didn't have all that machinery in place. And I'm trying to figure out, well, where do I really want to plug myself into the real estate world? And it's very difficult for someone like myself to just go in and right off the bat be competitive with someone like you who has that machine already in place. So
Well, the
I,
thing about this though too, in that that's not a bad thing, because most people enter my situation from the beginning to try to generate the capital to be able to purchase those notes.
right,
And you in 2 years have, I believe, double digit notes, and it's like, that's nothing to shy home about. That's like taking action, and in my in I don't know if you thought of it this way, but it's almost skipping a step. Now, I get it, running a business, and I've wanted to do that and take that whole thing, but
hmm,
people are getting upset and mad that their marketing's not working. It's just like, if you have the capital or access to the capital, it's almost like jumping that step, because at the end of the day, don't we all want to be the bank and just receive that mailbox money?
right. That's true, and that's something that I've been working on with retirement accounts, because between my wife and myself, we had a certain amount of capital to start off as seed money to work from, and we've been gradually just buying notes and letting that income come in, and then turning right around and buying notes, and it's retirement money,
Right.
so I can't touch it anyway. So I might as well just keep generating it right back in and buying another note,
Right.
buying
And
another note.
how about the tax advantages?
Yeah, because I'm not, if I was buying this out of my personal money, then all the interest that I'm making every year off these payments is taxable. That's taxable income. Whereas in a retirement account, it's not. I don't pay taxes on it every year. I'll pay taxes on it when I start drawing the money out of the retirement account, but that's a different situation.
Definitely. And if you guys are on the fence and you're considering joining business with him, I cannot stress enough how knowledgeable he is. And when the tax advantage stuff, like, when I talk to people, I just say, like, I'm trying to use kind words, but it's like, you are a fool if you don't take advantage of that stuff. And
Right.
if you have the knowledge and you choose not to take action, you're a fool. If you don't ever learn the knowledge, well, what do you know? But again, if you're watching this, I can't stress how top notch Wayne is with it, and he can help you grow your money at an astronomical matter that in the future, all your heirs will thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. So, one of the things I wanted to do was talk a little bit about. We talked about this before we went live with this, but I wanted to show just kind of some of the work that you had done. I pulled this off your website, and I thought this was really cool. This is an example of a project that Jeremy did. So, tell us a little bit about this house, Jeremy. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so this is 3509 Reagan Drive. This was a good one. We let's see. I believe that they inherited this property, and we got in touch with them from a piece of mail, and just, did the whole thing, played the game. We go out there on these appointments. We know we have competition. but our follow-up game is where we focus. And then, being reliable and not shady, right?
Right.
That's half the battle if you look reputable. And then we bring our reviews out there. I have them printed out and laminated so they can show that we will deliver. But that was a before and after. I think that ended up costing close to 50 grand, maybe 45 or so. And then this one we didn't create a note on. We always just kind of throw it out there with different options. But somebody came and they delivered on a price. Now, other times what we do is we put seller will carry. Yeah, so it'll come back on. We'll put them on with different exit strategies. But this was just a traditional flip that we got it, bought it, and sold it. But this is kind of an avenue of we can either get that property in the beginning or assign it. But I knew this was a good one, so I kept it, and it was a great flip. But the backside of that is creating the note. These are the properties and what one actually looks like and why, where you find your penalty box buyer. It's not somebody who necessarily they can have bad credit, but not necessarily somebody who's just bankrupt and woe is me situation. It's like, I make good money, but in the eyes of the government, I'm not bankable. So they come in and we do make them have a good down payment. But my favorite thing in the world is buying something from a house or an investor who has a tenant in it. The tenant wants to stay, but instead of saying, dude, why are you paying rent? If you can buy this thing for this price per month and maybe work towards putting this down, would you be interested? And we did that for this guy who actually lives with his sister and has, I believe, a special needs nephew. They did not want to leave, and he could not buy a house. And they bought this house in Haltom City, and the guy has never missed a payment. I almost think he's excited to pay it every month because he owns his own house now, and he's building equity. And I even gave it to him at 6%. It's just the way it made sense. But super nice guy. And it's just the opportunity to do that. There's more to life than money, right? And you can help people out, which makes it so much more fun, in my opinion.
That's fantastic. That's a really good example, and I think that you hit the nail on the head with that. It's real estate can be a really fun line of work to be in, and there's so many just opportunities to help people, right? You can, I mean, it's good to make money. We all want to make money and need to make money to either fund our family today, but then also fund our family and our lifestyle in the future. But
Right.
if you can help people along the way, then that's even better.
Definitely.
As a car salesman, you weren't necessarily helping people. I mean, not really. That's probably why you got out of being a car salesman.
Sewell is great. I'll always talk positively about them, and they won't lie. They would fire us if we lied. But it's
Good.
just the grind of,
Yeah.
You take your day off, and they're just like, okay, part-time. I'm like, dude, I was here like 6 days last week. It's like, I want to go play golf.
Right.
You know what I mean? And one thing that, like you said, leaving it, money for your hair is a good man leaves an inheritance for his family, right? And
Right.
then the flip side of that is you literally, how much of your IRA are you going to take with you in the next life, Wayne?
Zero. Zero.
Zero.
None of it.
So it's a fine line. Again, there's our needs here, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, if you're pinching pennies and your bottom line is money and that's your master, like your life is going to suck.
I agree. So another thing I really admire about how you run your business, and we've talked about this a few times, is KPIs. And for those of you who don't know what a KPI is, it stands for Key Process Indicator. Now, that's when I was an engineer, I had KPIs, and there were all sorts of KPIs. When you work in corporate America, you get KPI'd to death. There's so many different levels of KPIs and dashboards, and oh my gosh, that's why I'm bald. I worked as an engineer all those years. My hair fell out, never came back. But what I want to find out with you is how did you get started with adopting KPIs, and why do you see them as valuable tools?
That is such a good question. When I was a one-man band, it wasn't worth my time to do it because I just had to, I was always grinding. It's like, if I'm doing all that, my numbers are here. I know all that. Well, until I started having a team and realized, hey, we track all this stuff. We probably started this in 2019. Is if you track it, you can scale it.
Mhm.
So mentorship obviously pushed me to the point of like, okay, start tracking this stuff. Well, we know how many pieces of mail go out every week. We know how many texts we send out every week. We know how many calls we send out every week. We know how many appointments we go on every week. We know how many offers we send out every week because it leads to contracts and money. And my favorite, I felt like, yes, he's getting it. So we have a new acquisition guy that started. He's 6 weeks into it. So
Okay.
6 weeks in his 12-week process where we say in 90 days, you're going to really have a good grip and a huge pipeline, and you're going to be able to start cranking. Okay. He said for the first time yesterday morning, man, I'm really focusing on hitting my KPIs, hitting my numbers, because I know that's what produces the results, the contracts, and the money. And to me, it was this, he had his light bulb aha moment. It's like, this is why we do it. I don't do this to micromanage you. You're a grown man. I don't
Mhm.
I don't want to do that. The reason why we do this is because you can track. If you go on 10 appointments a week, you're more than likely going to get one deal, potentially two. And if we send out 12 to 15 offers a week, we usually get a minimum one, sometimes two deals a week. And that's the process. But that's the answer. Why do we do it? Because we know if we hit those numbers, we produce the results that provide the lifestyle that we want to live.
And what would you say? I'm gonna ask three, but if there's more or less, you tell me what would be like the three top KPIs, or like when you have a new guy starting out and you're teaching him this system, what are the KPIs that you have him focus on?
Great. Any lead generation channel, because when they get in, we have them hit the ground running and we track all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But really, even more so is appointments, that FaceTime. It's if you got 100 leads but zero appointments, you'd be better off having 5 appointments and not 100 leads, because he's gotten good at now doing the lead generation and building the pipeline, but it's now hitting him. I can't get a deal unless I get an appointment. So it's really appointments. If you focus on appointments, then you can get the deal. Because at the end of the day, it's contracts, but you can't get a contract without an appointment. But you can't get an appointment without lead generating. So in my opinion, appointments is number one, because that's when the follow up process will come in, and especially the new guys when they come in. I was like, you go on that appointment and you don't leave with a contract. You call me at the end. We'll see if there's anything we can do. If not, we just tell them we appreciate it. Have a good day, and we'll be in touch.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's excellent.
But appointments and offers, those are the two.
Okay, good answer. What are your thoughts on the real estate market? So, we're in this time right now, aren't we? Of things kind of changing, and we're going through a bit of a downturn. What are you seeing in the real estate market here in our area in DFW, and maybe beyond that, maybe the US? Do you have an opinion on where you think the rest of the country is going?
Absolutely. Uh, our overlords said the other day that they are going to continue to raise rates, probably at a higher rate and a faster rate than what
Mm-hmm.
they were saying. Now, you got to understand, which I know you do, but if you're listening and you don't, 42% of the money in circulation was printed like in the COVID times and all of that, right? So they added so much more money in circulation. So I think that's why they're having such a tough time manufacturing. And I did intentionally say manufacturing a recession, because they
Mm-hmm.
are. They know exactly what they're doing. But I also think that the system definitely would have had a collapse if they didn't print all that money, right? It's the way
Right.
it's designed. But it's not going up anytime soon. If they're going to raise rates, especially more than they were, I think everybody kind of settled in comfortably of like, oh, well, here's the path. They're going to raise rate 0.25 through March and April, and then we're all going to be fine. But it sounds like that's not happening. If you look at the rates, they're naturally gone back up to 7% even before they raised it. So we were at 6% before they raised it. They raised it to 6.25, and now we're back up to 7. So they're trying to get that right under control, even though they intentionally caused it.
Right.
But so overall, prices, I would say potentially going down a little bit more, but I do think the mass effect has taken place. Now, locally, I think we're very, very strong. Our deals, we're definitely noticing things are heating up big time here in DFW.
Hmm.
So luxury's getting hurt. Our bread and butter, we don't even like to be any higher than 300,000 completely into it. I don't even like to be over 250 because 7% rates don't affect 250 as much as they do a million.
Right.
um, and those people are having to get creative or lose money right now. You know what I mean?
Right. So you're really focusing on trying to provide nice housing to working class families.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Um, Most recent one we got under contract in this market in Wedgwood, we listed at 240, got it under contract at 245. So even in this market, it went for overpricing. There is still a need when things are priced right in a good location, where this is a first time home buyers with a dog wrote a letter. They want to start their family there. It's just they don't know rates any different. They're buying this
Mm.
house at 6.5 whatever percent, where you and I are like, man, I know people with 2.5% on their house right now.
Right.
They're going to think 5.5% is a smoking deal in the future.
Right.
Uh, so that's just my 2 cents on it. We've been real cautious, and I do think into this year in the winter will be a good time to load up on potential luxury deals, because I do think 2024 things will kind of, I don't know if they'll ease it, but they won't be like raising intentionally. I think they'll kind of maybe just let it sit for a bit.
Hmm.
I say that. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I've heard on a couple of different podcasts that I've listened to that they're actually saying that the Fed is being too light with these 0.25% bumps, where they need to be doing a full half a
What's
point bump.
what's your opinion on that?
I think that it stinks that it's happening, and I agree with a lot of the stuff that you said, and I think that they're going to keep doing what they're doing until they see inflation drop. They're looking for a 2% goal on that. So they're trying to get this thing down to 2% inflation. And I think as they get it down there, they need to honestly maintain that for probably a year or two, instead of, oh, interest rates down, let's go back to quantitative easing. I think
Right,
that would
right.
not be a good thing. They need, if they're going to do this, let's just dig in and let things settle out and stay there for a couple of years. Because we honestly, people got spoiled with 2 and 3% interest rates. That is not statistically normal. If you look at the 50-year average, it's at like 7%.
Right, right.
So we're at, right now we are back up to average. We just got spoiled, and
Mm.
people got used to being able to live in houses that they technically probably shouldn't or couldn't afford in any other climate.
That's so funny. I always say, of all the people that live in these very houses now that are very expensive in a nearby, not I'm not in that neighborhood, but in the area, I always
Mhm.
say they can't even afford their house that they live in now. But
Right.
now they're all arrogant and think they're something hot because their house appreciated, so much based on Fed activity.
Yeah, but we know most of those people live off the monthly payment. They don't live off of what they can truly afford, as long as they can make that monthly payment. But
Yeah,
what they're in a shock for is if their job ever changes and they have to move, they're probably going to have to, when they go to that new town or new location, they're probably going to have to downgrade their housing
right.
because of the interest rates. They're not going to be able to afford as nice of a house anymore.
Right. It is very interesting. I'll tell you what's interesting is like it definitely the more you learn and the knowledge you gain, these people are almost actively playing with everyone's lives because they're not thinking, hey, what is in the best interest of the people? It's what is in the best interest of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah. And that's honestly the truth of it.
It
Well,
sucks.
yeah, it does. It does. Well, Jeremy, I thank you for your time. And in wrapping up, there was one thing we talked about this before we went forward with the recording. But there was something when I was looking at your bio, and I'm gonna pull this up real quick. So this is at the end of at Jeremy's email, and so I'm just gonna put this up there. This is Jeremy's contact information. If you wanted to reach out to Jeremy about any of the investment opportunities he has, or what he's got going. There's his contact information. But the thing, Jeremy, I really wanted to focus on that stood out to me is if you look at the bottom of that, you look at Jeremy's calendar and he puts, okay, Monday through Friday, my business is open from 9 a.m. to 6:30. Okay. Saturday, appointment only. Okay. But what stood out to me was Sunday. You don't just say off, you say off spending time with family. And that's to me was significant. You did that on purpose. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit in just kind of wrapping things up. So what was your thinking behind purposely putting that out there like that?
It's an excellent question. In the real estate world, especially as a realtor, um, people are kind-hearted, but not kind-hearted enough to respect your time. So somebody had encouraged me to do that. And so I was like, you know what? Because I was just like, man, realtor, I got to be available around the clock, 24/7. And I was that way, especially when I was single. I mean, you could get a hold of me at 10:30 at night and I would be there and working for you.
Right.
Uh, but somebody encouraged me to do this, and they're like, "You'll be surprised at how much people respect your time." And it really made a difference. But as I got married and then had children, it's just like, you know, this working thing is cool, but it ain't that cool. And so it's like when I'm working, when I'm spending time with them, I want it to be spend time with them, relax. Like let's wait for work, until the next day. And people know, even on my team, it's like if you reach out to me on Sunday, I'm not getting back to you until the next day. And to be honest, if somebody wants to not do business with me because that's not somebody I want to do business with anyway. They're going to be a prima donna. They're going to be demanding, and they don't respect the family time. The last thing I want to say, at Note Expo, I feel bad I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he was a very great coach, very good motivational speaker. But he something that stuck out big time because I have aspirations to do this. He talked about this gentleman who in 2 years went from nothing, 0 houses, and created a $1 billion portfolio in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who has aspirations to be a billionaire would be like, that is amazing. But you know what the guy said? He wanted to commit suicide. He was on the verge of blowing his head off because that did not fulfill his life. He hit his goal. He was a $1 billion portfolio. He could buy whatever he wanted in this world, but he was miserable.
Right.
And I believe he went through a divorce during that time. And I'm just like, I don't want to do that. It goes back to that. How much money are we going to take with us in the next life? 0.
Right. Yeah.
And that stuck out like a sore thumb. And, just taking advice on everybody. I just surveyed parents and they all said, you spend time with them while they're young. You can always make money later. You will regret not spending time with them.
I think that person you're talking about from Note Expo, it just popped in my mind. I think it was Sean McCloskey.
Yes, that's his name. Yep.
Yeah.
You remember that story?
I do. And
I have never forgotten that.
I love following Sean because he really talks about the work-life balance and he has a whole different philosophy about how to build your schedule and how you should schedule your time, like daily time with your family. Every day is built in. And I make sure that I spend time with my family. My wife actually gets mad if it's 8:00 at night and I'm still doing stuff in the office. She's like, "What are you doing? You've had all day. You couldn't get that done."
Right.
And you know how it goes when you're working for yourself and you're doing business. The time gets gobbled up so fast. You do a few phone calls, emails, you do this or do that, and the day's gone before you know it.
There's always something to do, right?
Always. It never ends. And so what's important? Are your kids going to grow up and not know who you are? You might buy a kid a Mercedes for their first car, but if they don't really have a relationship with you, what have you gained? So that's kind of my view. And we share a lot of the same values. And I think that's why we've become friends over the last, couple of years. It's because we have a lot of common values, and that's why that stuck out to me. And this is something as part of this interview, as part of you and who you were, I wanted to end on that because I think that was it's very poignant. You put that out there, and it's very important.
Definitely.
I want anybody that watches this interview that's in real estate. Maybe you're young, and there's a difference because I'm a little older and I'm in a different part of my life, but a lot of the younger guys out there, they have that drive, and there's nothing wrong with getting out and getting after it. But if you've got a wife and a family,
Right.
spend time with your family. Don't be so driven about making money every second of the day that you blow up your marriage and your
Right.
kids don't know you. It's not worth it to me.
Man, and my wife has been so thankful. And she would even got to the point, it's like, okay, like I know you're spending time with us, but there's a difference between being present and there. You know what I mean? You can be
Yeah.
there and on your phone and working, but if your mind's not there present, they know. And that's
Yeah.
another thing I had to struggle with that. And I'm still not perfect at it, but
Yeah.
it makes a difference in their life. And I can see it in my boys that when I spend time with them, like it's just so much better.
Right.
And I love it. I mean, we're playing Super Mario video games all the time.
So you get to be kind of a kid again playing with your kids.
Exactly. So I was telling my brother, he just found out he's having his first boy, and it's like, man, you get to relive your childhood. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. Okay, Jeremy. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been a great interview. Really enjoyed it. And we'll have you back on again in the future and we'll talk about a few different things because we didn't get to everything, but I want to be respectful of your time. I'll have you back on again in the future and we'll cover
Awesome.
something else.
Like I said, you listen to this. I couldn't recommend a better guy, Wayne, in terms of knowledge. He's very high up in the note school, and he can help make you money, save you money, and he's reliable because shady people are not good to do business with.
Right. Well, thank you.
If you reach out to me, mention Wayne. Awesome.
Thank you, Jeremy.
See you soon, man.